several problem as well. So your problem in quiz, it would be just 10 mark quiz and 30-minute exam. And similar pattern what you had already seen during your online that online test, it would be purely randomized, and every instruction would be there. So are you able to see the slide? Anyone respond? Slide is visible. Anyone respond?
Yes, sir,
Okay,
visible.
then I'm going forward. So today we'll discuss about again further revision of convex set, and what are the process through which we can establish convexity of a set. So first criteria is that we are going to discuss about few recap that regarding operation. Few there are few existing operation which preserve convexity of set. So it is very much essential. If you understand those operation in a proper way, then easily you can establish uh, convexity of related set. So it is very much interesting. It's a directly indirect way to or practical way to establish convexity based on your previous knowledge. You don't need to do calculation here. Without calculation, you can establish convexity of set, similar to what we had discussed during convexity of function as well. Then I will recall separating hyperplane and a special case of separating hyperplane that happens to be supporting hyperplane. And further, I will go and discuss dual cone and polar cone. So we know that dual cone and polar cone all are defined with respect to separating hyperplane. So that's why it is coming after separating hyperplane. If you are very good in separating hyperplane, then you can easily understand dual cone and polar cone. And there are few extreme direction kind of things I will discuss. All those are coming with respect to separating hyperplane. So coming to convexity preserving operations for set. So we will go to view recap. So this example in last class I had told that if you are taking two convex set and you are taking intersection of those two convex set, then what happens? The resultant is again a convex set. If these two are convex, then you can say that the intersection of two convex set is again a convex set. That means intersection preserve convexity. That we had already seen that. So here I am taking one example. This example is very interesting from uh, different signal processing kind of view. There what you do, you always if you are having a function, periodic function, suppose p of t, I have taken it here, p notation. So periodic function is always, you can express that periodic function in term of sine and cosine, and there Fourier coefficient is playing very important role. How much factor of sine or cosine are present there in the uh, uh, periodic function pt. So that coefficient you need to know what would be that coefficient. So what we do, in order to go for, if you consider all the coefficients, then it would come as an infinite sequence. So we won't go that, we can just do finite approximation of that infinite coefficients. So if you do finite approximation, and in that process you will get a Fourier subspace. Fourier subspace, I am calling it S. So one subspace we have written here. So X, that means X is a m dimensional point. That means m number of Fourier coefficient of the periodic function Pt. It is written here. That means we have truncated. We are starting from k equal to 1 to 1, and it is in proper order. That means proper order, increasing order. Those Fourier coefficients which are having higher value will come first, and those which are having lower value, they would be truncated. So that kind of concept is coming here. So here we need to find the space of Fourier coefficient. So if you take a space of Fourier coefficient under these conditions, that your periodic function must be bounded by uh, 1 and minus 1. Also you are taking value of t or theta. Sometimes someone is denoting theta. It is, that means it is between minus pi to pi. In that process, the collection of Fourier coefficient whatever space you will get, or simply you also can say that coefficient as your coefficient of space, it is a convex set. How we can say? So we can express this as a linear intersection of st happens to be a slab. Here what you do, uh, x is coefficient of Fourier coefficient, and you consider normal vector as a having component the cosine or sine term, whatever cosine or sine term. Suppose this pt is a even kind of function, that in that case only cosine term would be there. So very simple case is this one. So here you are taking the normal direction as cos t, cos 2t, and it will go on up to cos mt, cos 2t up to cos mt. So you consider this one as a normal direction for the Fourier subspace. Normal direction for the Fourier subspace in that process, and you are putting condition that here you are saying that pt normal, so modulus of pt is bounded above by 1. That means this pt is lies between -1 and 1. It is just simple inequality. So pt would lie between -1 and 1. So if you take so what it is, one kind of, it is one kind of notation of simply you can say that it is talking about hyperplane a a transpose x. It is lies between two number -1 and +1. So you simply say that you have taken one subspace, you have taken one hyperplane, and what does it define? If you are taking a transpose x less than equal to 1, then it is talking about negative half a space. You are taking negative half a space h1 with respect to bias 1, with respect to bias 1. Here bias is 1, and what does it? -1 is less than equal to a transpose x. It is talking about a subspace or half a space. It is talking about positive half a space with respect to bias -1, but both are having the same normal. Remember that both are having the same normal. But if you take intersection of h -1 plus, that means hyperplane with respect half a space with respect to this hyperplane, and h1 minus, then what is this? This is a slab. So you can draw like this one. Suppose direction of a is something like this way. This is the direction of a. So here h1 minus, it would be this h1 minus, and similarly you're drawing this is hyperplane a transpose x equal to 1, and this is the hyperplane a transpose x equal to minus 1. So with respect to this, what is the upper half space? This is the upper half space. So this is the common region of lower half space with respect to this. This call it up, upper half space with respect to bias -1. That means plus h plus. So this is the slab. So this region we call it, it is a slab due to this. So it represents a slab. It is the slab between two uh, hyperplanes. So that slab it is talking about. So st is a slab between minus hyperplane a transpose x equal to -1 and a transpose x equal to +1. St is a slab. So what you do, each slab, again you can observe that each slab is what? It is a convex set. So if you take a collection of all the intersection of all the slab, this slab, then this is the resultant slab. This is the resultant slab. So it is an intersection of all the convex set. So due to that, the resultant S, the Fourier subspace S is a convex set. So it is just outcome of intersection. Due to intersection, convexity preserved here. Further, I will talk about if you are taking sum of two convex set, if you are taking two convex set C1 and C2, and if you do Minkowski sum of these two, then under that Minkowski sum, again that resultant set is a convex set. So one example I have taken it from linear algebra. In linear algebra, we had already come across four fundamental subspaces. Suppose we are having a matrix A, then we can find four fundamental subspaces. What are those? First subspace is row space of A. That means row space of A is what? Nothing. It is a column space of A transpose. So if A is having first column 1, 3, 2, and second column 2, 6, then what would be A transpose? A transpose would be this matrix having first column, row of the A would be first column of A transpose, and second row of A would be second column of A transpose. So what you observe that here, when you are going to find, so row space of A is nothing, just column space of A transpose. So when you are going to find column space of A transpose, so you will take all possible linear combination of column of A, and what you observe, this call it column C1, and this one is the column C2. What you do, C2 is nothing, just it is a thrice of C1. That means C2 is dependent on C1. So you can say that C2, this second column, is a redundant column. It won't create anything while calculating column space of A transpose. That's way you are get the linear span of this C1 and C2. It will be just confined to linear span of C1. That means multiple of 1, 2. In that process, if you are taking a vector and finding all possible scalar multiple of that vector, that means you are having a single direction. If you are having a single direction, then what is the resultant? You will get a single line. This is the single line. So column a space of A transpose, that means row space of A, it is just a line with direction 1, 2, and passing through origin. Similarly, you can find null space of A. What is null space of A? That means we are finding the element from domain. This is domain space. So if you operate A over those elements, null element, call it null element, so that that will map to 0. Null space is just a pre-image of 0. So null space what would be? So how can you get null space? That means you have to solve this system of linear equation. In order to get null space, you have to find all those x. If you multiply with A, it will be, it becomes 0. It becomes nullified. Nullification process is happening. So again, how can you solve this? So in order to solve this, you have to apply row reduced equivalent form or Gaussian elimination method. So A matrix is what? 1, 3, and second column is 2, 6, and then you augment it. Augmentation, right hand side, what you are having? 0, 0. Then when you apply elementary operation, what you will get? If you apply elementary row operation, what you will get here? Just apply elementary row operation, or you can simply say Gaussian elimination method. So it is very simple. It will take this form. So what you do? Make this entry 0. All of diagonal entry make it 0. So what would be this? So take twice of this one and subtract from second row. So what you will get? 1, 2, 0. Then this becomes 0, 0, 0. So how many pivot column you observe? You are having only one pivot column. This first column in row reduced echelon form, this one is the pivot column. So that's way, okay, that's way, uh, this is the pivot column, and The second column in row reduced echelon form, that one is non-pivot column because it is not having a leading one. So this the variable associated with this pivot column, we call it free variable. So recall linear algebra concept there. I had already discussed enough regarding free variable and dependent variable. And the variable associated with first column, that one is the x, because here A is 2 by 2 matrix. So due to that, x would be what? X would be two-dimensional vector. It will have one coordinate x1 and another coordinate would be x2. x2. So here what happens due to in reduced form, what we observe that the pivot column, first one is the pivot column, second column is the non-pivot column, or another way also you can say that non-redundant column. So non-redundancy is playing very important role in order to find null space of A. So x2 is here free. x2 can take any value, but x1 is dependent upon x2. That means what is how it is dependent. So you solve this reduced system. So if you solve it and further if you want to revert into equation, then it will take x1 times x1 plus twice of x2 equal to 0. That means x1 you are able to write in term of x2. So x1 you can write it equal to minus 2 times x2. So what is your solution of null space? It is nothing. So in solution of null space, you observe x1 is dependent variable. So you would like to write dependent variable in term of independent variable or free variable. So x1 is dependent, so you are writing in term of free variable x2, and x2 is already independent or free variable. So simply x2 would be here. So if you take it out x2 common, what will be remaining thing? Or simply whether you take x2 or minus x2, there is no issue. So remaining thing would be minus 2 and 1. So that means the minus 2 1, it forms basis of the null space of A or direction of A. So that's why here I have taken it 2 minus 1. So there is no issue, there is no problem if you multiply it. So you are getting a null space where direction is what? Minus 2 1. This is the null space of A. Similarly, you have to find column space of A. Column space of A you can find in it will have, that means all linear possible linear combination of column of A. So that will give this line with direction 1 3, and similarly column null space of A transpose you will get this would be null space. Now coming to Minkowski sum, what does it say Minkowski sum? So if you sum this null space, that means if you sum this line with this line with this line, then resultant would be what? Resultant would be complete R. That means Na plus. So simply I would like to write it here. So column space of A transpose, that means row space of A plus, if you sum it up. So remember these two are just set infinite set, that means line, these two are, so you are taking two line, one line is row space of A trans A and another line is column space of A. If you sum these two, what will be resultant would be complete R2 plane, this two dimensional Euclidean space. This is the Minkowski sum, visualization of Minkowski sum. Similarly, if you sum these two lines, then what would be here? That means if you sum column space of A with null space of A transpose, these things are also having a lot of application in robotics. If you are unable to understand this one, definitely you will face problem in robotics as well. So this one is playing very important role there. If you know all this decomposition. So here, column space of A plus null space of A transpose, it is coming equal to your codomain space or target space is also R2. So this one is very ideal situation, ideal example I have taken. So this you can say target space. Here, column space you can call it a reachable set, and null space of A transpose you can call it non-reachable set. So that is the concept of Minkowski sum. Similarly, there are many ways to define Minkowski sum. If you are taking a line and taking a point, this one, and if you sum, what you will get? So you have just shifted your this terminal turn point, and you are what drawing. So your resultant would be what? It will start now. Your line will start from this point. Call it this point is x1, and this line is L. So your sum of L plus this point x1, it would be what? It would be this line again. It is again a line, but remember that your now starting point of line become what? X1, and terminal point would be x1 plus this terminal point of L, this last terminal point L. So like this way, if you take two perpendicular line like this way, one line is vertical and another line is horizontal like this way. So if you sum it up, so that means it is just extension of this summation of a line with point. So you take one point here, then sum with line, you will get a vertical line. Take another point and sum with uh, this line, then you will get another line. In that way, what you will get a collection of line. So all these collection line in together, what does it form? So it form a square. So that means sum of a line segment, vertical line segment with horizontal line segment, what does it give? It give a square. Similarly, there are many various way. If you take a slant line, then you will get different kind of a structure, or triangle kind of a structure, something like that. So you can do a lot of practice to find Minkowski sum of different sum. And what is happening here? You remember that line is always line segment is always a convex set, and second, this horizontal line is also convex set. The resultant, whatever you are getting, a what is the resultant? It is a square. The square is again this closed square, it is again a convex shape. So all three are convex. If you sum two convex structure, the resultant will be a convex structure. That is the criteria of Minkowski sum. That's a Minkowski sum always preserve convexity. Now, further, I would like to say that if you define a linear transformation, and then that linear transformation always preserve convexity. That means if you are suppose you are having a linear transformation here, it is I have already written. If you are having a linear transformation from Rn to Rm and defined by Ax plus B, A is a matrix of the transformation, then we can say that its image. If you take any image, how you find that? Take any subset from domain space, see any subset from domain space, and then find the collection of image. Suppose if C is your convex, it will imply that your image, say T of C, it would be also a convex. So that means T of C is convex for every convex set in the domain. Similarly, if you take any subset from the codomain, if you are taking any subset A from the codomain or target space, then the inverse image, that means the collection of domain element which are mapped to A would be again a convex. So it always preserve convexity. Affine transformation always preserve convexity. Simple example is that if you do a scaling, how you do a scaling? That means you take a vector and multiply with a diagonal matrix. If you multiply a vector with diagonal matrix, this operation we are calling it a scaling. Because what is diagonal matrix? Diagonal matrix having non-zero entry along diagonal, and of diagonal element happens to be zero. So due to that, it just what do it do a scaling of the vector. Whatever vector you will take, it will scale the coordinate. It will not change the direction, just it will scale the coordinate. So that's why diagonal matrix will provide a scaling. So under a scaling, if you find a image of a convex shape, it would be a convex. So translation, another one is a translation. That means shifting of origin also, you can say that, or affineness you are bringing it. So translation kind of transformation, it always preserve convexity. Similarly, projection, that means what you do in projection, you are trying to nullify few direction. So, like if you are in R2, then you can project every R2 along a particular line. So like suppose you want to project every R2 point from particular line, then what kind of point you will take? So line, suppose this line is having direction 1 1, so your projection matrix would be the it would be what, just 1, 1, 1, 1. This one would be your projection matrix. 1 is not a just a position notation. So 1. So this one would be projection matrix, which will project uh, every R2 two-dimensional point along a line with direction 1, 1. So this one is a projection operator. So that means if you take any convex set here, C, suppose this one is a convex set, C, this one is a convex, then if you project it here, you will get what? You will get a line segment. So that line segment is again a convex. You know that line segment always happens to be convex. So if you take a convex set under this projection operator, image of convex set is again a convex set. So all these are very simple linear or affine transformation which preserve uh, convexity. Similarly, if you are going to solve this matrix inequality, then solution of space would be again a convexity. And hyperbolic cone, if you define hyperbolic cone, it also preserve convexity. Now, few interesting kind of map apart from affine transformation, we are going to discuss about two important one. One is perspective, another one is linear fractional function. So perspective is nothing, just it is just similar to projection. What you do, suppose you are having a map from Rn plus Rn plus 1 to Rn. How we define? What we do here? You remember two conditions that last coordinate of this domain we consider that one is positive, e is greater than 0 and x is coming from Rn. So what we do, we normalize the vector by last coordinate. That means we divide it throughout every coordinate, we divide by last coordinate. So just to sake of simplicity, we avoid we take t greater than 0. So in that process, this map we are calling it projection perspective map. So under the perspective map, again, it preserve uh, image and convexity of image and inverse image or pre-image. So it preserves. So if you take any convex set from domain, then the corresponding image would be, if you're taking any convex set from the domain, then perspective under perspective function, the image would be convex. Similarly, if you take any convex set from the codomain Rn, then the corresponding inverse image P inverse C, it is not invertible function, just it is notation of inverse image. So inverse image would be again a convex function. So the perspective map, further I would like to say that the perspective map, what it do, it scales or normalize vector so that last component becomes 1. That means you are having in the domain you are having this kind of point x1, x2, likewise up to xn, and last coordinate would be t. Last coordinate is your t, and t is here a special condition, t is greater than 0. What you do under perspective, when you apply perspective map, what does it becomes? If you apply perspective map over this vector n plus 1 dimensional vector, then if you apply perspective map over this, so what does it do? It divide all the entry by t, and resultant it is coming like this way: x1 divided by t, x2 divided by t, and likewise you will go up to xn divided by t. And if you divide t by itself, what would be resultant? 1. So that's one is what? Don't need to keep it in the definition. After dropping this, so it is taking this form. That means it looks like that we had n dimensional vector x and we divided it by t. One is here silent. because it is a fixed number, so there will be no change. So definitely here what is happening, it is projection kind of thing is happening. That means we are projecting n plus 1 dimensional space to n dimensional space. Here dimension of x would be preserved. So that is the criteria of perspective function. So I will take one example in pinhole camera interpretation of interpretation. So we can define pinhole camera and explain with the help of perspective function. What does it do? So a pinhole camera, it consists of one opaque horizontal line at horizontal plane. That one is x3 equal to 0. That means x1 x2 plane with a single pinhole at the origin. There is a single pinhole at the origin through which light can pass. It is a, so you might you can recall the photo processing that you are taking from camera, so that you can easily visualize this opaque horizontal plane. Now what we do, and there is a horizontal image plane where behind the camera, behind the opaque plane. So that's where what is the horizontal image plane? That one is x3 equal to -1. It is behind the opaque plane. So if you take an object at, suppose there is object at x, then above camera, that is uh, x, it is above the camera. That means above the opaque plane. So x3 is greater than 0. That's why that above the opaque plane. So it form an image at a point where it will form. It will form at uh, y, and what is that? Here you can observe that one is fixed. So it is just defined in term of perspective. So you have divided a point x and you took negative and divided by x3. So that's why you are getting first coordinate is x1 divided by x3, second coordinate is x2 divided by x3, and third coordinate is 1. So that's where this coordinate is redundant because it becomes fixed. So it simply says that this image is coming in the plane x3 equal to -1. And what is this? This one is the perspective map. It is defined in term of perspective map because one become fixed, one coordinate become fixed. So that's where if you fix one third coordinate, that means you are having just a planar walk. That means x3 is fixed now, so you are moving along x1 x2 direction. So uh, that means you are moving along the image plane. So this is one example of perspective map, map. So that's way a camera what it do, if you what is the image of a if you take image of a line segment, then if there is a line segment, then image of that line segment would be a line segment. Under this pinhole camera, image of a line segment would be again a line segment, and we know that line segment is a what? It is a convex sheet, so it also preserves convexity, and camera is just based on principle of perspective function, a mapping. Further I will talk about linear fractional function. What is this? This one is a special case of perspective map. We can say that if you're defining we define linear fractional function, it is a ratio of ax plus b. A is a m by n matrix divided by c transpose this linear function divided by this linear function. Okay, so this affine, we divide this affine transformation by this linear function. Okay, so which domain is that? It must be positive, and we know that C transpose x plus b, it happens to be what? It defines an affine plane. Simply you can say that affine plane or hyperplane. So it defines hyperplane with bias minus d, and in order to make it relation with perspective, we are putting that this quantity must be, denominator must be positive. So it is what? It is a composition. The linear fractional function, it is a composition of perspective map from m plus 1 dimension to m with an affine map. So G is a affine map. It is defined as first component is coming with respect to mat affine transformation ax plus b. Second component is coming from this with respect to this hyperplane C transpose x plus b. So if you take composition of G with P, what you will get? You will get your G is your affine function, P is your perspective function. If you take composition of this one, then composition with respect to composition operation, you will get your linear fractional function. So linear is coming linear. So here your numerator is linear, denominator is also a fractional. 1 by something linear function you are taking, that function we are calling it fractional function, fraction function. So that concept is coming here. So what you do here, we have already seen that project perspective function is also preserving convexity, and affine function is also preserve convexity. If you take composition of these two, then composition of these two again preserve convexity. Due to that, a linear fractional function always preserve convexity. So that's why image and inverse image of a convex set under linear fractional function would be always convex. Those are those were convex preserving operations. Now I'm coming to discuss about separating hyperplane. So this one is important from optimization perspective. So what is hyperplane? Again, I would like to recall it is a collection of points that set is in such a way every point is having unique bias, same bias, uniquely same bias. You can observe that every or same support. So if you are taking a hyperplane and you design a direction with respect to a fixed direction or normal direction, every point of the hyperplane having same bias, the bias or same support. So you can say that like this way. I have written everything here. So this hyperplane, it always, if you apply principle of dichotomy, you can say that this hyperplane defines two closed convex half space. One is H plus, that means X such that P transpose X greater than equal to P. Another one is H minus, lower half space. So these are two closed convex half space. And also we observe that if you take intersection of H plus with H minus, what would be? You will get H. This separating and the supporting separation. Here supporting separation is happening if you are defining H plus and H minus. Now, apart from that, if you apply principle of trichotomy, then H defines two non-intersecting convex half spaces, H plus plus. That means a stick separation is here, and H minus minus, a stick separation is here, and the hyperplane itself. So this separation we are calling it a stick separation. So here, yeah, I would like to recall that B is what? Bias B. It is you can call it support of the hyperplane in a normal direction. It is when what is B? P, you know, P is the normal direction of the hyperplane. Now, what is here B? You also need to know the geometrical significance of B as well. Bias B is nothing. It is support of the hyperplane in normal direction. In a particular, if you change the direction different, you will get different support. That we don't need. We need support. We are having a normal up to the hyperplane. Then, with respect to that normal direction, we try to find support of the set. So that is the support. That means it is simple to visualize. If you are having a line like this way, and this one is the coordinate axis, okay, and what would be direction of normal to the, this is the normal direction of p. So what you do, so you do project every point of this hyperplane, call it 1D hyperplane in. So project every point in along this direction. So suppose if you're taking this point, call it x1 or x1. So that means draw the this position vector and project orthogonally in the direction of. So this is the projection of x1 in the direction of p. So that means this projection, it what does it give? It gives your bias p. Similarly, if you take any other point here, suppose this one is the x2, and if you project in the direction of P. So what is, so here orthogonally you will project. So again projection of this one x2 in the direction of P is again this one. So every point in a hyperplane is having same projection in the direction of P. So that's where that projection we are calling it, we denote it by B, or we are calling it bias, and that becomes support of H in the direction of P. That one is geometrical meaning of B. So now we are coming to separating hyperplane. What does it? So separating hyperplane which separate any two disjoint set. Remember that if you want to come across a separating hyperplane, what is the algorithm? Algorithm is that take two disjoint set. First criteria, you have to see that given two set are disjoint or not. That means it must be disjoint. Then you will talk about separation. First criteria. Okay. It so it is intersection of C with D is pi. That means disjoint. Second criteria is that you have to check whether C and D both are convex or not. If you are taking any one of them is convex, then you can't talk about separation of two set, disjoint set. So even this being a disjoint non-convex, if in case of non-convex set, separation is not possible, despite of being disjoint. So if the second criteria you have to look that both C and D are convex. Then you can talk about separation. Then further, if you keep on bringing few more condition over C and D, then you will get different kind of separation. It depends upon. So there are those things I will discuss here. So what is happening? So as a hyperplane which separate any two disjoint sets C and D, then such hyperplane we are calling separating hyperplane, and there exists. So that means there exists a normal direction such that C here you can say that C lies in lower half space. This is the condition of lower half space, and uh, D lies in the upper half space. So there is a clear separation of these two disjoint sets. Remember that convexity is must kind of property for separating two set. So here we are taking two convex sets C and D, and easily we can separate these two set with the help of a supporting hyperplane. So now idea is how to construct that separating hyperplane. So construction process I had already written here. What you do, you are having two disjoint set C and D, and then define a very well known concept distance between two set. It is just defined in term of infimum of uh, infimum of the norm x minus y, where x is coming from C and y is coming from D. So it is a very well known definition. And what is happening? And when this problem is having a unique solution, or when this problem is having a solution, when it is solution, when it will be a convex problem. So if it is a convex problem, then it will be solvable. So what is the guarantee of being a convex problem? So in next module we'll discuss about formal definition of convex problem. What does it say? That apart from this objective function is nice, it is a norm of two norm. So two norm always happens to be convex. Apart from that, your constant set is C and D. So C and D also must be convex. So if you, that's way criteria is coming in case of separating hyperplane, C and D must be convex. So then it will have a solution, and that solution is what? You will get a point C, and you will get point a small c in the set C and a small d in set D, and these 2 point will give the smallest distance between C and D. And if you are getting C and D, then consider a direction with respect to C and D. How? So consider C as a reference point, then define a vector D as a vector A as D minus C. So D minus C is giving your normal to the hyperplane by taking A as a normal direction. What you do? Then draw a perpendicular bisector to A in order to get a strict separation. There is no issue. You can also draw separating hyperplane. So there are infinitely many separating hyperplane for this case. So you have to choose or select optimal one. Which one is the optimal separating hyperplane? It depends upon what kind of problem you are dealing with. So in order to further understand separation, we have to also understand projection part. Projection of a point which is not in set, projection of point to a convex set. So again, it is a convex optimization problem. So we are having a point X which is not in the given set C, and C is a convex set. So projection of X at C, it would be X naught. How? So X naught is what? X naught is just a solution of this convex optimization problem. That means infimum of norm X minus Y. So that Y is coming from convex set C. Here, this objective function is convex, and this constant set C is also convex. So it is a convex optimization problem, and we can apply here on norm 2 we have taken. So also we can apply gradient descent technique in order to find all this point x naught algorithmically. So through that also we can find it. So this point here you can simply call it x naught. So this point x naught we are calling it projection of x on C. It is already 45 minutes. Other things we'll discuss in detail in next class. I think others are coming, dual corner, other corner. We had already discussed. So wish you all the best for your first quiz. If you are having any question, you can ask. Otherwise, I am going to wind up today's class. The rest of things you can find in the slide. If you have further having any doubt, you can ask a question. Otherwise, I am going to wind up today's class. Anyone is having any question? No doubt, no question. Fine.